Sonic has been a character that I've mentioned in a couple videos in terms of me thinking he's overrated. And a lot of people are confused by this because I know there's a large notion of like Sonic is a super broken character, he's actively one of the best characters in the game, and while I do think he is top tier at this point, regardless of how over or underrated he is, I don't think he's as good as people think they are, and it's actually for an interesting reason. The player base of Sonic is so good and, most importantly, so shameless. And I mean that as a compliment. So shameless that they make the character look like the best version of that character. Because here's the thing, there are so many characters that have really, like, not obvious, or I guess really important and strong win conditions, but they're really not fun to do. So a lot of people don't want to do them. Realistically, Pikachu players could camp the entire game and then just like maximize their one hit and then continue to camp and just play hard to hit. Same thing with Zero Suit. They can play for timeout every single game, every single matchup. Same with Greninja, like any fast character can just play for timeout. It's Aegis, it's Zero Suit, it's Sheik, it's Pika, it's Sonic. Right? And the thing is, I feel like there are a lot of characters that can shamelessly play for their win condition, but the player bases choose not to. And the thing that is so unique about Sonic players is that Sonic players will always and have always played for their win condition. Back in Brawl, when Sonic first was released and that character was bad, they just played for timeout. There were two top Sonics by the end of the game, which were X from Utah and SB, and they were both really good, and they played for timeout. Sonic was a bad character in Brawl, but if you could get into the person's mental and frustrate them, you can do really well, and they had plenty of top results in tournaments when the character was literally like low mid-tier or low tier. Like the character was bad. That has carried over to all the other Sonics. In Smash 4, obviously Sonic was actually broken because he had an easy way to stuff approaches. With Invincible Spin Dash, you can change that or cancel that into shield, and he had some dumb kill confirms that don't even exist in this game, being Ultimate. He was a ridiculous character. He was blatantly overtuned, but again, he was held back by the players because not every Sonic wanted to time out, and not every Sonic wanted to just only run away. The ones that did saw success, and then, you know, there were a couple of tournaments where, let's say, like Ken played really, really campy, so he was able to win / do really well and basically make it to like the Leo Tweak caliber of player, like being like the top 3 or 5, and then still sometimes win, but also sometimes lose. But he had like a really good record versus the Buzz and all the Zero Suits, and even some of the Bayo players. And Sonic had, you know, slightly rough matchups with Bayo and Cloud, but still was able to do really well versus them. The reason that I don't think Sonic is as good as people say he is one, like if you wanted to say like this current subset of the meta, sure, I understand that. I view my tier lists a little more abstractly, like sometimes results are important, and it depends on how ubiquitous the results are. I also view like how playing to your perfect win condition is not something that many player bases do. Sonic's do, so it gives him a buff. So if you want to consider that like, oh, the player base is so shameless that it makes the character broken, absolutely, I'll agree with you, no arguments, right? But again, if you are considering how can they play the best possible way ever, then Sheiks are not optimal, Zero Suits are not optimal, Aegises aren't optimal, Steves aren't optimal, Game & Watches aren't optimal, Pikachus aren't optimal, and all of those characters have equally as good tools, maybe not all of the characters that I just mentioned, but a lot of those characters have equally as good tools, with a better advantage state, and sometimes better disadvantage state, even though actually Sonic's disadvantage state is really dumb, which is one of the reasons I think he's still super broken in terms of like top 20, 25. But it's an interesting way to think about the game, right? Because you don't see Zero Suits and Aegises go for timeouts, or Zero Suits or Sonics. You don't see people blatantly play to the win conditions like the Sonic players do. So the Sonic players, when you look at them, go, oh my god, this character is broken. But that's literally just because they are playing the maximum possible potential with their character, and no one in the rest of the world is even coming close with their character. It's not something that people do. You don't see Pikachu players camp. You don't see anyone just blatantly play to their win conditions like Sonics do, and I don't know why Sonic is the only character that does, because like you could as a bunch of other characters, and there's definitely been a one-off like Zero Suit camper, like the one from Canada that I forget their new tag because they have like 4 different tags. I used to go by King Chris. And then there are a couple, like Captain L is kind of a timeout Sheik. But even like the campy Pikachus like H4, he doesn't generally go for timeout. He just doesn't put himself in bad positions. But then again, he has gotten timed out by players like Hungrybox. and like no shade, like just it's something that's happened, is he leaves himself susceptible to that because the rest of his gameplay isn't 100% strong enough. So you don't see as many people blatantly play to the super absurd timeout potential of their character, and Sonic's do. And there are plenty of other characters that can play for timeout. Hell, even a character like Roy and Crom, well maybe not Crom, Roy can play for timeout because he's super fast and he can just swat aerials around you. That's super hard to whiff punish. And like, again, to be clear, Sonic's timeout is like better than all these characters. Like, Sonic's timeout is better. Like, it is blatantly better. He has better runaway tools. He is faster. He has spring for disadvantage tools, and he also has a frame 2 air dodge. But at the same time, like, it's hard for him to get off the ledge, in my opinion. And like, his neutral isn't scary as long as you are okay with camping Sonic back. The thing is, Sonic doesn't really have a way to force approaches because he is fast, but he doesn't really have like super good normals like that. Like, he doesn't have overwhelmingly good frame data or anything like that. His short hop is like not the best, so you can't like short hop falling aerial with anything great. He doesn't have good rising aerials that are also safe on shield like Pikachu or something. Like, Pika can go T-Jolt fair, B -5, disengage, whereas Sonic has to completely just run away to the corner every single time, and that has its flaws, right? Because as I mentioned before, in this game you can't cancel your side B into shield, so you don't have the options that you would in past games when he was better. But obviously he's way better than the Brawl Incarnate, because Brawl Sonic was awful. But like, at the same time, I don't know, it seems like an interesting little subsection, right? Because you have Sonic players like Wrath, especially. Like, Wrath is the most timeout Sonic, but then you have, of course, Sonics that will play to time, like Sonics, like with the X, not plural of Sonic. Ken sometimes plays for timeout and plays very passive. Like, all the Sonics play relatively passively, and will go for time, but Wrath is the character or the player that will like, oh, I am playing literally any opponent, timeout. And the reason that I don't say this in a negative way is, one, I don't dislike camping. Like, I like timeouts. I think they're funny at the very least, and they're like also very intense if it is relatively close. If it's really bad, then it's not super close because you're like, you literally can't win and you have to wait another minute to lose. But at the same time, you have like, it's so impressive to be able to do that. I literally, and I mean this as the biggest compliment, I could not bring myself to play like that. When I play Sonic sometimes, I will, run away for 25 seconds and then be like, I'm bored, and then run and short hop fair and get hit and take 50, and I'm like, okay, great. Now I'm losing, I can't time out. So the ability that these Sonic players have, all of the top Sonics that will do this, I have nothing but respect for them, because it is so hard to consistently time people out and have that mentality in every single set. Because again, especially like, if you are going to run at people as Sonic, there is a high chance for getting upset, because again, as I mentioned, Sonic's like hitboxes aren't that great. He can get beat out by sword characters, he can get juggled by sword characters and other really good advantage characters, even though he does have spring and a really good air dodge to get out of that situations like that, and also homing attack. But like, he is susceptible, right? Like, it's not like he has a top disadvantage in the game. It's probably the top like 20 or 30, but it's not super definitely up there. His recovery is really good, which means that's obviously good, because you're not really going to get hit off stage and die like someone like Aegis would, so he's a little tankier than those type of characters. But again, he does have he has a lot less advantages than those characters, but just with the added bonus of, I'm the best at timing out. So Sonic, I think, is a really good character. I think Sonic is, like, I underrated the hell out of Sonic in my previous tier lists. Maybe not the last one. The last one, like, I think relatively had him in the right spot for me. But like, the Sonic players, in my opinion, just deserve so much respect. Like, legitimately, I'm not being sarcastic, I'm not /J, I'm being very genuine. Sonic players deserve so much respect for the mental energy it takes to time people out. Like, can you imagine a player like Sonic's who went through that like 9-10 set losers run at CEO, and he's just willing to time literally any of those people out? I don't know if he did time anyone out, but again, he plays with that intention, and then if he gets the hit, he plays advantage, and sometimes he's gonna get 80% and then eventually kill people, so he doesn't have to time out, but he's willing to any set he plays. It's a little bit more aggressive than Wrath, because Wrath will go, oh no, I will just time you out, like, that is my goal. My goal is not to win, my goal is to time you out specifically unless you run off stage or like die really early to forward smash or something like that. I think Sonic definitely has weaknesses, right? He doesn't have great descending hitboxes, all he has is like spring and homing attack. Obviously, homing attack, while I think is very good and underrated by the Sonic players specifically, it is still relatively exploitable, like, at least in a lot of situations in disadvantage. He's not really good at getting off the ledge, but he does have a good advantage state because he has, he's fast, right? So he can just whiff punish you, and then his moves combo in a like surprisingly good way, even though like sometimes it feels fake, but you'll randomly take 50 or 60 from Sonic. This song got so loud. Like all these moves and like all these positions are like awkward for Sonic, which is why he has to default to timing out. Because I think if you're not playing Sonic to whiff punish and bait and punish, which is like the easier version of timeout, you're not playing the character to any type of like height. Like I think aggressive Sonic or not very campy Sonic, at least to like initiate, is a bad character. Maybe not like a bad character, but a, you know, low high tier character, which for me is like top 50, as opposed to playing him campy where he's like top, 15 to 25, which is where I would put him right now. Again, it doesn't mean he can't be higher. Again, the biggest thing to think about with tier lists, and the reason I'm totally fine if you disagree with me, not like the Roy Aegis video, I'm right about that one, but it's the fact that you can value different things in a tier list. And I kind of went over that in my like what tier lists mean videos. Everyone has a different thing for a tier list, right? Like Tweaks is like, oh, if every character plays optimal, this is the tier list, which is why he still thinks Zero Suit's broken, and he thinks Sonic is broken, and he thinks Aegis is broken, because he's like, yeah, just time people out every game. Just do it. Just do it. Which is funny because he also doesn't play that way when he plays Aegis. But like, if you value different things in a tier list, right? If you value the frustration, if you value, oh, the Sonic players at the moment are very, are leagues ahead of the other players. Like not every player, but like the Sonic player base as a whole is leagues ahead of every other player base as a whole. Like I'm going to blatantly try to time someone out. Like I'm going to try specifically play with Punishy and to play campy. And that is my goal right now, like 100%. And I will tell you, it's not going to work. Like, I'm gonna try. I'm not saying that as like, oh, I'm just gonna make myself fail. Like, no, I want to, but it's fucking hard. It's so hard. Also, it's my birthday, so I'm gonna wear the birthday hat. Okay, well, they're fast, so I don't even know if I'm going to be able to. Me, I'm gonna play passive. Me, quick attacks in. I wanna hit buttons so bad. Imagine if I just like did this over and over again. Like this is just how I played. They're just waiting. That's actually how you're supposed to play this matchup. It's kind of what Black Twins did to me when we played. He came in like a motherfucker. I got bored. See, like I'm getting bored and I'm just mashing back here because I'm losing. Okay, I have a lead again. Okay, I have 3 minutes and 18 seconds to kill. Yeah, someone I can't really teach was an unfortunate pull for this. Like, could you imagine this? And again, I don't want to play like this. I will stop playing like this fairly promptly, but like, could you, like, this is hard. Like, I'm struggling. I still have 2.5 minutes left. Hello? Psych. Fuck, I didn't time out. God damn it. I just played advantage. Which, like, again, is fine. Like, they definitely, the Sonics do that, but it's just fucking crazy, dude. It's so hard. It's legitimately, and again, I mean this as a compliment to the Sonics, it's so fucking hard to play super campy all the time. Which is why even players like Tweak, who are like, I'm gonna commit and hold forward the whole time. Or sorry, hold back the whole time. Like against the Buzz, when like, he'll get the Buzz down to like 1:30 and then run in, get hit, and lose. Like that's happened like 5 times versus the Buzz. But like it's hard. And so I respect Sonic players a lot because of it, but I think Sonic is an overrated character because that a lot more characters can play like Sonic players do. We just don't. And yeah, that's my video. I mean, again, if you think Sonic's broken, I understand. Like, I think he is a ridiculous character. I just don't think he's as good as people think he is. So subscribe. 200K soon. Peace.